Okay, boys, we are live, episode 4 of the Broadway Shuffle, the Texas Tech Sports Podcast with Clayton, Zyler, and Conrad. I'm Brennan. We've got a great show tonight. We're previewing some Washington State football. Got some notes from the Big 12 and going to release our rankings finally. I teased that on last episode, but we're finally going to get those out. Make sure you follow us anywhere you get your podcast, and on YouTube at the Broadway Shuffle, a Texas Tech Sports Podcast. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome the boys. And guys, I know that we had a pretty depressive episode on Monday, but here we are. It's Thursday. We've kind of made it over the hump. Are we over the shock of Saturday, or are you guys still recovering? And after that, Conrad, I'd like you to go last. I know that I have something special for you. So Zyler and Clayton, tell me how y'all are feeling here 4 days removed from the game.
I'm feeling better than I did Saturday night, that's for sure. If we recorded this preview right after the game, be a loss for sure in terms of what I would say. So I'm recovered.
Yeah, I mean, as a Tech fan, we know that time heals all wounds. We get sucked back into thinking that we're going to have a really good team every single year. I think I do feel better. I took a look at, the roster again, and in some ways it made me feel worse, but in other ways it made me feel better. I'm hoping and choosing to believe that Tim DeRuyter will get our secondary concerns fixed. If that gets fixed up, I feel a lot better about the team moving forward. We will learn a lot after Saturday night, though.
Yeah, and then Conrad, we're going to be doing something weekly here on the Broadway Shuffle, a Texas Tech Sports Podcast, and that is, you can look at it like a State of the Union, if you will, with Conrad Mills, but we're going to call it Conrad, and I'm trying not to laugh already, but Conrad Kool-Aid Factory updates. And so, Conrad, without further ado, why don't you introduce us to what some listeners can get from you weekly on the Conrad Kool-Aid Factory update.
Yeah, so as our listeners know, I announced on our Monday episode that the Kool-Aid Factory for Texas Tech football was officially shut down. The lights were turned off, the utilities were canceled, the workers were fired. It was all over. It was all done. But since then, our executive team, yours truly as a CEO, Zyler Buchanan as a CFO, Clayton Anderson as the CMO, and Brennan Baxter as our CCO, that's our Chief Custodial Officer, have been thinking long and hard. Brennan's been working tirelessly to clean the factory, make sure it's crystal clean for when we open it back up. And as of today, I am proud to announce that Conrad's Kool-Aid Factory is back open for business. And so we've got some Cougar Juice that we're cooking up for you all. I am feeling much better. I'm feeling ready to go. ACU is a thing of the past. We're 1-0, and we're ready to win this game. So Conrad's Kool-Aid Factory is open, ready for business. Send in your orders to the comment section on our YouTube channel and our Instagram direct message. So send it to us. Conrad's Kool-Aid Factory is open and ready for business this week. Maybe next week it'll close again, but we've hired the staff back and we are ready to go.
We're picking it up, man. Where can I buy some Cougar Juice? And
Cougar Juice, baby.
And I don't even know if I want to buy Cougar Juice, to be quite honest with you. I don't know what that entails, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But
it's Kool-Aid. It's Kool-Aid. It's just a different flavor, you know?
Yeah, I got it. Well, every week Conrad's going to be given his Kool-Aid Factory update here on the Broadway Shuffle, where you'll really get a true glimpse into what it means to be a Red Raider fan and how week to week you can change. But if you're not crazy and drinking the Kool-Aid, then you're really not a true Red Raider, in my opinion. So we're all here. Conrad, we appreciate it, man. And I look forward to hearing week in, week out what the Kool-Aid Factory is whipping up. So,
I mean, you gotta believe, right? You got to believe. And last Saturday was a tough day. Last Sunday was tough. Our Monday episode was tough, but we've got time to fix it. I think we've still got time to salvage the season, and we've only played one game. We're going to play another tough one this week, but hey, you got to believe while you can, right? 1-0, we're still undefeated. We won by 1 point, but hey, you got to drink the Kool-Aid while you can, right? So let's drink it, let's enjoy it.
Yeah, why
Yeah.
now why yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Zyler, go ahead.
Yeah, like I said, there was only one school in Texas that managed to beat a private religious institution in their home opener. So we'll take that over the Aggies any day, right?
Exactly.
How
Yeah.
did you define the roles? Like, why am I the chief custodial officer?
You know, I just thought of who would be the most fun to poke fun at, and I just thought your talent level in terms of, you know, what you do for work as well. You know, you work with germs a lot, and so I thought, well, Brennan knows a little thing or two about germs and cleaning places. So I just thought, well, Brennan can be the chief custodial officer. He oversees our staff, hires them, fires them, all that stuff, and you know, I'm the chief. Maybe I'm the CPO, the chief product officer. I don't know. We can give ourselves whatever titles we want here on the Broadway Shuffle.
It's going to change weekly, I think. It'll change.
Oh, I think so. I think so.
What happened on ES? Zyler, are you drafting live here, or what's going on?
My apologies, gentlemen.
Are you?
I was thinking about Cougar Juice and forgot to silence my cell phone.
Oh. Who are you? You might as well tell us who are you picking. Who are you going here?
I picked Javonte Williams in the 5th round, so we're locked in.
There we go, man. Good for you. Well, all right, man. Well, with that, we'll get into. We do have a game to play on Saturday night, and we are playing the Washington State Cougars, and we had Andrew Baxter on last week, and he was talking about the ghost of Mike Leach, and there's a lot of weird things intersecting on Saturday night. They are honoring Mike Leach, who, you know, rest in peace, passed away and left, unfortunately, us way too soon. But man, I got to say, like, this kind of feels a little scary. Like 9 o'clock in Pullman, they're honoring Leach. The ties to Tech. Andrew said that Mike Leach is haunting us as a program, and since he left in 2009, we have not been the same. And honestly, he's probably got a fair point. So I'm kind of nervous here. I feel like we might be just walking right into Davy Jones' locker come Saturday night, and the Pirates gonna, you know, unleash his demons on us. So I hope that's not the case. But before we get into Washington State and who they are, what is our confidence level heading into Saturday night? And Clayton, I know I'm supposed to go in order here. I think Clayton, you can go first.
Let's see. If 5 is 50%, I'll go 6. I'm slightly leaning Tech.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things, and I know we're going to break down both teams here in a sec. I think I lean Washington State just based on what I saw from both teams. I won't be shocked either way if Washington State wins by 28, Tech wins by 28, or it's a close game. I don't think either will really shock me at this point. I think there's too much unknown about both teams.
Yeah, and you don't have to make your prediction yet. I was just more like confidence level heading in to Saturday. Conrad, obviously your Kool-Aid, the Cougar Juice is whipped up in there. Are you drinking that, or are you a little more nervous and you let on?
Well, I mean, it's made and ready to go. I don't know how much I'm going to drink of it or have of it, but it's ready to go, and I'm optimistic. I will say, I think looking back to last week and for both Washington State and Tech, I mean, you did both play pretty poor opponents. Obviously, one won by 40 and one won by 1. But at the same time, week 1 of the season is typically something that you don't really know what's going to happen after that. I mean, coaches say all the time, the biggest improvement is between week 1 and week 2. So would I be shocked to see improvement from both teams in week 2? Not necessarily. But I do think that you just do have some guys that are more talented maybe than the other team. And so again, I think that'll bode well for you, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I think I saw enough from our offense to think, okay, if it's a shootout, I feel pretty confident that we can compete, if not win. And even Washington State's head coach said in his press conference this week that at the end of the year, Texas Tech's offense, he believes, will be a top 10 offense in the country. So that just shows the respect he has for our program. But because of all those things, I'm feeling pretty confident. I'd probably say I'd give us a 68% chance to win the game, just based on how I'm feeling right now, and just thinking about last week and looking forward to the one ahead.
All right. Well, we'll see.
What about you?
Like I said, I feel like there's just a lot of things going against you this weekend, to be honest. I'll save my prediction for when we go through them, but it just seems like it's going to be an emotional game. Zyler, I think you mentioned this on last episode, but they do get Washington in the Apple Cup the week after. So maybe they're, focused on Washington coming in and they're not really super hyped for this game, want to focus on a revenge game and show that when we catch them on an off week. But there just seems to be a lot in terms of the travel, the location. Obviously, what happened at Wyoming last year doesn't give me a ton of confidence that, but I'll get into my prediction. I do feel like you do have a lot of positives as well, at least on the offensive side of the ball, that might be able to carry you to a W. So we'll see. And I'm excited. I think it'll be a fun game. I think it's going to be a high scoring game and we'll have a lot of fun. So with that, this week, there was some interesting news in terms of an injury report that came out. Tech, some surprises, I would say. With Taj Brooks, we found out a data array will be out for the year, which is unfortunate. But Z, do you kind of want to walk through the injury updates from Tech, and then anything in particular that's out now here as we are a couple days away from game day? Any updates you got?
Yeah, so I think the biggest one was a data array being out for the year. That really, really hurts your outside linebacker, or for those who don't follow Tech as closely, your edge positions. Dylan Spencer's a true sophomore, and a data array is only a true junior, but those were essentially the oldest guys you had in the room, and they were your two best edge rushers, and so they're now gone. Charles Esters is still going to be out. He's your third best edge rusher. He was out for ACU as well. Data array didn't play in the ACU game either. And then you also have Harvey Dyson, another edge rusher for you, who is questionable. I was, pulling stats on the team and kind of looking at the guys that we had available at our edge positions, and they're all extremely, extremely young. We've got Ansel Ndidori, he's a redshirt freshman. You've got Amir Washington, another redshirt freshman. You've got Isaac Smith, who missed all of last year, and then you have Harvey Dyson, who's questionable and also a redshirt sophomore. They only have 30 tackles between all four of those guys. 18 of those came from Isaac Smith, and he missed all of last year. 3 total sacks. So essentially a halfway decent season for a defensive edge. It's all that you have returning as far as production goes on that position. That's really concerning. The other item that I think is worth noting is Taj Brooks. I'm 95% sure he's going to play, but if he doesn't play, I think that really hurts you. It's something that we'll talk about a little bit later with the way that Washington State sets up their defense and how they do some of their run fits. I think Taj adds a really big element to what we will try to do in this run game. He was going to add a big element to any game plan that we have, but specifically against Washington State, I think he's really, really important.
Yeah. Clayton is the defensive end position for Tech. Is that a big worry for you as well? Do you feel like and I guess a better question might be, what does that do for your linebacker core behind them? Like, do you feel like there's more pressure now on Rodriguez, Ramirez, and Roberts to step up in that second tier? What's your overall feeling now that a data array is going to be out? Esters, you've got a lot of, like Zyler said, you're really beat up there. How are you feeling as a whole about the defense going into Saturday night?
Yeah, I'm definitely pretty concerned about the edge rushers specifically. I feel like the issues that we had on the back end can be fixed because a lot of those seem like communication issues, just passing people off to no one, just running right by guys. But the edge injuries are definitely becoming a real concern because we're not going to get help at that position. So I definitely think it puts more pressure on the linebackers, but probably more pressure on the defensive backs to be able to cover their guys if you're not going to be able to get to the QB quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Conrad, any thoughts on that?
It's just tough because you were already so young at the edge rusher position and, really throughout the entire defense that it's going to be difficult for you to train guys up in a really short amount of time to be ready for what Washington State's going to throw at you, which is it's going to be creative offense. I mean, they did a lot of creative things last week. They did some mesh routes that you got to be communicating on in terms of passing people off from the linebacking position, and then even on the secondary and the back end. So that edge rusher position, it's kind of going to be like the offensive line for us now. Maybe it always was, but now it's just magnified in terms of how concerning that is, because you don't have some of the people you thought you were going to have that got a lot of that work in the spring, in the summer, and even in fall camp. And so you're going to have some real holes there unless someone just steps up. And we could have a Ben Roberts situation, or one of those young guys just steps up and plays out of his mind this game. And then, we're looking back a year from now, we're like, yeah, that's when so-and-so came out as a real stud for you. But it is concerning, and it will be until they show us otherwise and prove it.
Yep. Yeah. And then Zyler, what was that stat that you wanted to share about the defensive end, and really your just like main defensive players? Was that specifically from Saturday's game?
Yeah, well, it was the 30 total tackles. I mean, that's, if you look at any sort of good defensive end in the Big 12, that's a pretty decent season for them. 3 sacks, that's like a very bad season from a production standpoint. And you've got that combined with all, 4 of your defensive ends. So you essentially have the returning production of a mediocre Big 12 defensive end with 4 players. So extremely inexperienced.
That's not what you want to hear.
No. And it's going to pay dividends later in the year and later in these guys' career. Like that will pay off. These guys are getting reps way before they probably should. But it may look pretty rough at that edge position. I think Amir Washington's going to have to do a ton for you. He's probably your most talented until Charles Esters comes back. And he flashed. I thought he was the best edge guy you had against ACU, but we haven't even seen these guys against Big 12 lines. That'll be the worst line that they played Saturday, and this will probably be the second worst that they play this Saturday. So if you don't get any sacks, I'm not really going to anticipate many for the rest of the season against this group. So tough position. And if you get behind those guys, like you sustain a couple more injuries, you're looking at true freshmen playing. So you really, really need these guys to stay healthy and also be productive.
It's just not comforting.
Yeah.
It's just
you have what you have.
Yeah.
Conrad.
And this is just interesting because, and this isn't necessarily an injury segment or conversation, but it's just so, as by way of observation, how many injuries you've had over the last 3, 4, 5 years. Obviously we talked about quarterback. I'm not even going to mention that, but just at other positions too, you just had so many injuries, and I just think it's really interesting. I don't know why, but you just seem to have an exorbitant amount of injuries on both sides of the ball at all times. I don't know if that's a fair take or not, but that's the way it feels to me.
And, one thing I will say, if we were going to lose 2 starters at a position, I think this would have been the best one. I think this was the deepest position group you had on your team. You have like 5 really good backups, and now you're going to have to turn 2 of those into reliable starters. But I was really excited for the depth of this room, and that's really going to get challenged for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just weird. Like, you come into the season, you think everyone's going to be fully healthy, and the week 1 injury report, it's like, when did these guys get hurt and how? Yeah. Like, why is Braylon Lux not playing week 1? Like, what happened? And it's just, like, to Conrad's point, it just feels like that happens every year. Immediately, you're like, oh, wow, our depth is awful after 1 game. Yeah. And
you felt that way last year. Like, linebacker was the one position you felt like I can't lose players at, and immediately first game you lose Jacob Rodriguez, your best linebacker. It's just frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, Isaac Smith we hadn't seen in a year and a half. Bryce Ramirez goes down against NC State a couple years ago. There's just a lot, man. It's just crazy. So, well, we hope for health, and we need it. We definitely need it, especially going into Big 12 play. But what does Washington State bring? Conrad mentioned a little about their offense, but what specifically do they bring strength and weakness-wise that might affect how we play against them and our scheme, and then how we might be able to exploit some of them as well? And whoever wants to take this can go. I don't know. I forgot the order. So
I can go.
Clayton, you go.
I can go. To answer your question, I still don't know what to think of Washington State. I didn't get to watch the game versus Portland State. But watching the highlights and looking at the box score, it was very evident that they did not get tested at all, and Portland State did not provide any sort of resistance on the defensive end. I mean, I can't remember off the top of my head how many yards the QB had, but he only completed 11 passes and he had over 300 yards. They had like 6 guys over 19 yards per catch and like 5 guys over 6 yards a carry or something like that. So I'm honestly still not really sure what to think of them. Obviously, they're going to throw it around, and I do know their 2 outside wide receivers are very good and tough to tackle.
Yeah, Brennan, something that I saw, and I've got a couple things I want to mention. My thoughts on FCS games are always you can never learn good things. You can always learn bad things with an FBS team. And I think, Washington State lost in the wide margin of victory were some big flaws. They were really lethal on early downs on offense. Like if we just want to center on the offense. But if you got them past first and second down, they only had a 38% success rate on third down. It's the worst part of their offense by far. So if you got them in a, crunch time situation or an obvious passing down where they're not passing on 2nd and 3 or, 1st and 5 or, something like that, they actually struggled quite a bit. And that was against an FCS defense. If we're nitpicking, now they were obviously incredibly efficient doing those things like 0.68 EPA per play. That's in the 99th percentile for all games. And that's really, really effective. So that offense did look good. But then once again, only a 33% success rate on passing downs. And if you don't know what success rate is, it's an EPA metric where you take, how do I measure plays based on their success, based on what I was trying to accomplish? So first down, did I get at least 50% of the yards available for a first down or a touchdown? On second down, did I gain at least 70%? And then third down is, did I convert? Same with fourth down. And that's either goal to go or on first down. So a successful play can be 1st and 10 if you get a first down or you get 6 yards or a touchdown. Those are all considered successful plays. Just so that people understand that. Their passing game really relies a lot on play action. Are defensive backs going to stay disciplined? Are they going to bite up on those, play action calls and get beat deep? If that happens, we've got big problems. That's what ACU got us on a lot last week. If we have that same problem, I think they're really going to light you up. Last kind of note I have on their rushing game. It's hard to say that the run game is just okay after they had 254 yards, but 26% of their runs got stopped. So that's for less than 2 yards. O-line carry yards. That's, how many yards were you getting before you got touched, or based on the scheme? It was only 1.19. ACU was getting 0.84 against us, and we were getting 2.05, and we felt like we were getting stopped all game. So they really weren't able to push the Portland State defensive line around. I think we should be able to, kind of mess with their run game and make them a passing team. If they come out and can kind of run against us, I think we're going to have a lot of problems.
Yeah, and watching the highlights just briefly, both the short version and the long version of them, you saw a lot of their receivers, and their receivers are fast. So I'm not trying to take anything away from them. They're smaller, they're skinnier, but they had some guys. They had one guy transfer from Oregon, one guy from UNLV. Mm-hmm. Their receivers are quick, and they can burn you, yeah. Which that's obviously concerning for us, given what we saw last week against receivers that were, I'd probably argue, significantly slower than the ones we're about to see. But hopefully we're improved on zone. But also, if you look at a lot of those catches that their guys made on Saturday, just in the highlights, they were wide open, which is what you would expect against an FCS team like Portland State from, an FBS team like Washington State. But that's still interesting because it's hard. It's, again, I would hope that your defensive backs would be better than what you'd see at Portland State. I mean, they were tiny. I mean, they looked like high school players almost. And so if you put your defense against them, especially after the week of practice that I hope they're having, and they're practicing against a very good offense as we saw on Saturday night. So hopefully all of those things lend to you being able to do a little bit more on defense than you could. I don't think you're really going to stop them that well, just because their quarterback, John Mateer, from Little Elm, Texas, did show that he can sling the ball a little bit. I mean, he's not, he's not Baron Morton. He's not Josh Hoover. He's not, Shadur Sanders. He's not any of those guys. The guy can play, and it was only his first start, and so you're going to see more of him. But he'll probably throw for, I would guess, at least 2 to 3 touchdowns, maybe more. Unfortunately, he's just a good player, and he's got an okay arm. But I think he'll be able to exploit some things in your defense, assuming that they're not drastically improved from last week, but hopefully they are.
Way to throw Baron Morton in the same conversation as Shadur Sanders, by the way. So are there any...
I'm just a truth teller, man. Did you not see those stats from last week?
Yeah, no. I'm saying good job. Any weaknesses specifically that we might be able to exploit that y'all are confident in? Clayton.
That's a tough one. I mean, I think coaching experience and QB experience, if we get into a close game late, I don't know if that's actually a weakness for them, but them being a little inexperienced. Do they make mistakes late in game if we're up 7 and they have to go down the field and we know they're throwing. But yeah, I don't know too much about like their defense to say what they could be exploited on necessarily.
Yeah. Just a couple of things. I mean, our defense was so bad against Abilene Christian. And I think ACU was a lot better, and they deserve some credit. McGuire played really well. Hat tip to them. They made the plays. They made a lot of really good catches, but we allowed 7.15 yards per play. I think Portland State's significantly worse, and Washington State allowed 6.6, which is still really, really bad. It's kind of lost in the fact because they beat them by 30, but they have a hard time getting off the field. 40% success rate on late downs. If we can drive and do sustainable 8 to 10 play drives, they're going to have a hard time staying fresh and kind of staying with our receivers and with our running backs. We have got to be good in the red zone. That's one thing that they're really, really strong in. We've got to make sure that when we get inside the 30 that we're I guess the red zone would be the 20. But when we get into field goal range, we need to be scoring touchdowns. We don't need to be settling for field goals. They're not good at stuffing the run. You have a really good chance of getting at least 2 yards on every single run. They do have a really good middle linebacker, so he's going to stop a lot of that stuff before it gets past that. But they don't have much of a pass rush. They generated 1 more sack than you did last week, and we generated 0. So that's something where I think Barron's going to have time. We should be able to pass on these guys. Now, maybe Porcher looks even worse against, a P4/P5 team, whatever you want to call Washington State. But I think we're going to be able to score on this team. I feel pretty confident about that. Maybe I end up regretting that. Maybe our offense is kind of just a paper tiger against an FCS team and kind of come back down to earth against Washington State. But I feel pretty good just looking at the numbers, thinking that we should be able to move the ball. I'll be disappointed if we score less than 30 on this team.
Yeah, I think we will be able to score quite a bit, especially with the caveat of if Taj is playing. I just think he's going to wear down that defensive front. They do have a very good middle linebacker, but if you have a guy that you can hand it to that's one of the best backs in the country like Taj, and you can wear them down run after run after run, I mean, the guy just doesn't stop. He keeps going. That's going to pay big dividends for you, even in your passing game, because like Zyler said, Barron's going to have time to throw, just based on the rush they generated, the sacks they generated against Portland State. You're going to have a ton of time to get the ball to your playmakers, Coy Aiken, Josh Kelly, Micah Hudson, maybe we'll see, Jalen Conyers, Caleb Douglas, the whole crew of playmakers that you have. So if you can get a run game going, and I'm not sure how confident, I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on, if Taj is not playing, obviously we feel less confident based on the fact of your running back being out, but if we'll be able to run decently well with Cameron Dickey and Cameron Valdez, because Joey said earlier this week that Cameron Valdez would start based on experience, but Cam Dickey probably still would play. So I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on how Taj being out changes the game in terms of an offensive standpoint for us.
Plato?
Yeah, I think we'd still be able to run fine in situations where it could be a run or a pass. I would definitely worry about us getting short yardage situations, like being able to run on like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, when they expect the run. And I'd also be worried about pass protection if they bring a blitz and either Valdez or Dickey would have to pick up the free blitzer.
Z?
Yeah, I think Clayton hit all the things that I would have said. Pass pro would be a big thing. And I think on those power yardages, you're probably putting in Cameron Dickey. He's kind of your bruiser. And so you'll be relying on a true freshman to pick up those crucial yards. And we've seen him carry it once. So very inexperienced, very much an unknown quantity at this point.
But hey, you got the superstar Cam Brown, so why not just utilize him a little bit,
Listen, I'm going to say it. I actually want to see more Cam Brown. I think he would help us in some of those short yardage situations. I'll be okay if I see him come out for some of those plays.
Especially if Taj is out. Like I would be,
Yes.
I'm with Zyler. I would be in favor of seeing him more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was being facetious there. I'm good with it too. If Taj is,
let's argue about it again. Let's argue about it again.
No, I've come to grips with that. That's just part of it. You got to have a guy in that role. So, too bad Houston won't give us back Donovan Smith. I'm sure they would if we asked, actually. But
dude, can we just talk about the round 1 hype that Donovan Smith was getting before this season?
Dude, there were some people saying he had an outside shot at being the first quarterback off the board.
He has the same chance that I do of being drafted first overall in the NFL.
Yeah.
Nothing against Donovan. I actually like Donovan.
He did beat Texas. Let's at least give him that.
Donnie.
Yeah. One thing I'll say on the Cam Brown thing is if you've got a 6'5", 250 guy, I get like snapping it 5 yards back to him. But if you got a yard to go, shouldn't you just put him under, get him under the butt and let him just like bulldoze his way for a yard?
Yeah.
I'm not in love with taking a 6'5", 240 guy and having him have to take a snap and run an RPO with a slow motion type thing. I'd rather him just hike the ball and drive his body forward for a yard. It kind of annoys me sometimes to see that, but I digress. Okay. Okay. So 2 quick questions. I want each of you to answer. How does Texas Tech win this game? And then how does Texas Tech lose this game? If there's a couple things that you think flip it either way, what are they? And then go ahead and give your prediction as well after the fact. So Clayton, how does Texas Tech win? How does Texas Tech lose? And what do you think the outcome will be?
Yeah. How do we win? I think we need to see similar offensive output that we saw in week 1. And the defense needs to make some timely stops. Like, I'm honestly not expecting to hold them under 30, but if the offense can put up 38, 42, and then the defense can get a couple stops in the second half, it would definitely help if we could create some turnovers. I think we definitely have to win the turnover battle. I don't think we can turn the ball over 3 times and still win the game. How do we lose? I think it's a lot of the same stuff from last week. No pressure on the quarterback, and guys are running wide open in the secondary. That's not going to be an easy game to win. And then I guess for my prediction, sorry, I forgot about that part. I am going with Tech. I think it'll be a shootout. Let's go. I'm back on the Kool-Aid train. I just got a shooter from
Cougar Juice. Cougar Juice, baby.
Conrad's delivering overnight shipping. Yeah.
But part of the reason for my confidence is I went back and I looked at DeRuyter's success versus Washington State, obviously coming from Oregon and then Cal before that. And he's 4-1 versus Washington State. And the quarterbacks in the 4 games, they're like 5 touchdowns, 9 picks, like around 300 yards per game. And they were good quarterbacks too, like Luke Falk, Gardner Minshew, Jane DeLara. And so obviously I know it's a new coach, new OC, but it's the same scheme. Yeah. So he's seen it before, and I trust him to be able to get our DBs on the same page this week.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. And I guess I should bring in the Cougar Juice factor as well. Like, how much Cougar Juice will you be drinking on Saturday night? I guess is the question. Another question to ask.
I just got a
go ahead.
No, I was going to say I just got a full crate delivered to my house, so I got plenty.
All right, Z, what about you, man?
You are the chief marketing officer. You get as much as you want.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think so. If we win, I think 2 things happen. One, you get them into 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, and you get them to those plays like really consistently. So that means you're stuffing the run and you're forcing incompletions on 2nd down and doing those things. I think if you get there, you can get them below 50% on their 3rd down conversion rates. And if your offense gets enough shots at this, I think they're going to score points. I'm not saying we're going to score every single drive, but I think this defense can be had. They're not bringing an insane pass rush. I think you can do some of those things. The other thing, I think Barron has to have a really, really clean game. I'm thinking, 65% completions, probably 250 plus yards, hopefully no turnovers. I don't want to say no turnovers. I think if he throws 4 touchdowns, you can have an interception, but he needs to play a pretty clean game. And I think if you do those things, your defense is forcing 3rd and longs, and Barron plays, 250 plus, 65% completion percentage. I think you'll win this game. But my prediction, I just based on what I saw, I'm gonna give the slight edge to the Cougars. I think they'll take us down 35-31.
You're fired.
Hope you enjoy your last podcast.
How do you win the game? You score more points than the other team. How do you lose the game? You score less points than the other team. Pretty simple. But no, for a serious answer, I think you win the game if you get to the quarterback. This is a young quarterback. He is inexperienced. It's going to be the craziest environment he's ever played in. And even though it's at home, I still think that if you get to him and rattle him, you're going to be able to do that, assuming you can get a pass rush. Obviously, if you can't get a pass rush, then you're not going to be able to do much. But if you can get to him, if you can rattle him and you can stuff the run, you'll be all right. They're going to throw on you. I mean, I've just accepted that fact because of what we saw last week, unless the defense just comes out, like Zyler said, because of DeRuyter's track record, and stuffs them and plays really well against them, which very well could happen. I think DeRuyter's probably pretty angry after last week's game. I know Joey is, as evidenced in his press conference, and DeRuyter even too. But if you stuff the run and get to the quarterback, you'll win. I do feel very confident you've got the better quarterback by several miles, and I think Barron, based on how he played last week, I think you're going to see him do something similar. Maybe not 5 touchdowns, maybe not the same yardage, but if he does play that way, I think you're gonna be okay. If to lose a game, if you can't run the ball at all, like let's just assume Taj is out, I think you're at a significant disadvantage there. And so if that's the case, and you cannot run the ball with Cameron Dickey or Cameron Valdez, you're putting it all on Barron, which I think you could do, and he could come out and shock us and have a fantastic game and put the team on his back and win. But if you cannot run the ball against this team that Zyler mentioned the stats earlier is not very good against the run, then you're gonna lose the game. If you don't get over 125, 135 yards rushing, I think your chances to win significantly decrease. Obviously, I'm going to pick Tech right now. I think we're going to come out and play a lot better. I'll probably go 42-35, something along those lines, maybe 45 points. I do think we're going to win. I just think there's too much anger there, to be completely honest, from the coaching staff and the players, that we're not going to see the same team, I hope, this week as we did last week. If we do, then, well, it's been good doing this with you guys, because it's going to be a long year if that happens. But I'll pick Tech to win, and I'll be drinking the Kool-Aid as well.
Yeah, I feel like after Conrad's monologue, you can't not pick Tech to win the game. I've been pretty pessimistic, I would say, after the ACU week, and I have been adamant about the frustrations that I feel as just a fan, and this same story every year. But I will say there was one game in particular that I watched 2 years ago at Oklahoma State, and Baron Morton came out and he played like the guy that we thought is the future of our program. And I think even if Taj plays but is minimal and or doesn't play at all, this is an opportunity for Baron to go on the road and say, I'm not Tyler Shuck. I'm not Donovan Smith. Like, I'm here and I'm a game changer and I'm going to lead this team. And if I need to throw the ball 60 times and drop 50, like, I can do that. I think this is that game for him. And it's an opportunity. The fan base is frustrated. We are extremely disappointed in the defense. And right now we're looking at this like we need the offense to be something this year. And we've got the receivers and the skill players to do it, I think. And so for that to say, what I think Texas Tech needs to win is that they essentially need Barron to have a statement game, is what I would say. Barron needs to go out and drop 4 touchdowns, throw for over 300 yards, be in command of the offense. And when Washington State makes a big play, Barron matches it because they're going to score. Washington State's going to score points, but can Baron Morton be who we thought he was 2 years ago and then show that he's different from previous quarterbacks that we've had? And I'm going to say that he does that. I believe that. We do lose if Baron does that well, but our defense still gives up a 50 piece. I think that it just comes down to, can you get timely stops? You're not going to stop. I still think Washington State's going to score over 30 points. Can you just minimize the big plays enough where you gain enough momentum to maybe put together a 10-0 run, a 14-0 run, and sustain it, and just get some timely stops like we did against Abilene Christian on some 4th downs, and obviously it's the 2-point conversion. So with that being said, I'm going to say that Tech is going to win this game. It was my prediction before the Kool-Aid, but after the Kool-Aid, I'm definitely chugging it. So I'm going to go 47-41 Texas Tech. I think this is there's no way this can't be a shootout, I guess is my thing. Like, Mike Leach is going to be watching over the stadium. Like, if this is a 17-14 game, like, could you imagine like Mike Leach rolling over, be like, what did I do? And yeah. And I don't know about y'all, but I became a Washington State fan like 2012 through 2019. I loved watching Luke Falk and Gardner Minshew and these guys sling it. Like, I stayed up to watch these guys because it was we wanted to root for Leach, and so
Yeah.
I enjoy their fan base as well. I know they're frustrated, but obviously I want us to win. I think we find a way to get it done in a high scoring shootout in honor of Mike. So
let me ask this question. I'd love to hear from all of you. I just thought of this. If Mike Leach had to choose which tenure was his favorite, Texas Tech or Washington State, which one do you think he would pick and why?
I guess it depends on what you mean by favorite. There's no way he takes Tech if you consider the ending.
If Adam James was never at Texas Tech, I think he easily picks Lubbock. And if Gerald Myers wasn't his AD, I think he easily takes Lubbock. I think that he loved Lubbock a lot, and he built something great. And he loved competing against Texas OU and being the guy that could take him down. Washington State, like, he played in some big Apple Cups. They had, some 10-win seasons, but I don't think it was the same pedigree of a Texas game in 2008. So I think he'd pick Lubbock if the ending was different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm talking about without the ending. I mean, that the ending ruins everything, obviously. But yeah, I don't know the answer to the question. I would hope he'd say Tech because, I mean, why would I hope he didn't say Tech? But I think I just am interested to know what you guys think.
Good point.
So,
yeah, that's fair. We can
very
being honest.
We can end it there, dude. I was actually in a coffee shop probably a week and a half ago, and these two guys were sitting to my left, and I just hear this guy goes, "That stupid Adam James, man, he ruined everything for our program." And I just like overheard him talking, and I was like, "Dude, that is hilarious!" Like, he's probably in his 60s, and he's talking to this guy, and this guy's asking, he's like, "Yeah, man," and then I hear Gerald Meyer. It was just funny. It's like no one will ever get over that if you're a Red Raider fan that loved watching Tech ball in the 2000s. He is the enemy. It's not any school. It's Adam James. So
it is funny how much his sorry, Conrad, how much his imprint still is left here. We scored 52 points last week, and people are so mad about the offense. There was nobody whining about that. People were upset about the defense, but it was like, can you believe that call Kitley had in the fourth quarter? Like, as ACU scored 4 times in a row.
Right.
Yes.
It's just funny how our mentality is so centered around the offense because of those years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do y'all think there's any chance we could get Adam James on the show to tell us what really happened?
Yeah,
let's get him and Craig James.
Craig, both of them.
Father, son.
Craig,
tell us about the shack,
that'd be
man.
fun.
Yeah.
I wonder where that is.
Yeah. Well, it's not there anymore, probably. I mean,
it's not there.
Yeah.
No, they should have left it in memoriam.
Yeah. Kirby should rebuild it. and be like
the Adam James Memorial Shack.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, dude, that is funny. Well, awesome, man. Well, anyway, hey, Zyler, it's 3-1. So if we do win on Saturday night, just
I'll be so happy.
Yeah, I know you'll be happy that you're wrong. So, well, Conrad, you briefly mentioned. I want to touch on this too. I think we'd be remiss not to. Joey McGuire had a fairly interesting press conference after the ACU game in regards to this game. What were y'all's thoughts on Joey's presser? For Joey, I felt like it was a little heated, and just in terms of some responses and some frustrations. I think he tried to voice that he was frustrated about. He said no one was more frustrated than him regarding the outcome of the game, even though it was a win, but that he was proud of the guys. What did y'all take away from his press conference and his reaction to the Week 1 win?
Yeah, I didn't get to watch the full press conference, but I saw some clips, and I don't know. I think I haven't been one of the people who's been like pissed about what Joey has said about the team, just because like I feel like that's not a coach's job to like tell you accurately what he thinks of his own team. But it is nice to see him like fired up, like, and not, happy that we escaped with a win this time, whereas last year we didn't get that win, which I know he kind of touched on that too. But you want to see him like mad, because that's not what we expect out of our program, to be beating FCS teams by 1 point. So yeah, that's kind of what I thought about it. I don't know, Zyler, what do you think?
It's definitely the maddest I've seen him in a press conference. He's usually pretty friendly to the media, and it's the most hostile. Don Williams asked him a question about the injury. I think he asked what happened to Adedire or what happened to Taj, and Joey was like, we have the injury reports for a reason. And Don was like, well, can you tell me what happened? And he was like, that's why we have the injury report, so I don't have to get up here and talk about it. And then he was going on about maybe I should bring up the injury specialist to do the press conference. It was kind of strange how it ended.
Yeah.
He's definitely frustrated. I think he got to watch the film and the tape, and clearly saw some things he didn't like.
I was obviously very vocal on this podcast on our Monday show, just about how frustrated I was with the way he responded on Saturday night. Obviously, I get it. He's the head coach of the football team. He can only say certain things. He can't really say what he's thinking. That's okay. But based on how some of the things, the way he reacted, I was on Saturday night, I was really happy to see how, I mean, you never want to see your head coach mad, right? I would love it if he was in there and upbeat and happy and like, yeah, we beat him by 40 and we're going to go do the same thing to Washington State. But seeing how angry he was, and just, he seemed off, to be honest. Like, he didn't seem like himself, not the Joey that we know, which was good because it showed you how much that affected him. And I believe him when I believe this. He said it for his whole tenure here. Nobody cares more than he does, and nobody wants to win more than he does. I believe him. I mean, I completely believe him in that. And to see him as agitated as he was on Monday, I think that's a good thing for your team. Because one thing, if you know that Red Raider Nation knows about Joey McGuire, is that he loves his players, he loves his university, he loves the fans. This means so much to him. And I think if you see a guy like that you know loves you and cares about you like these players do, and you see that press conference or even clips of it or even get wind of it, which because they all have smartphones, they did, I'm sure, to know that your head coach was that publicly disappointed in you, as I'm sure he was privately, I hope they feel like they let him down because of how much he puts into it. And I hope that bodes well for you coming into this Saturday, because that you don't want to let a guy like that down. And I was happy to see the way he was. Wish he wouldn't have been a little jabby to Don, just because Don's been doing this forever. But again, if he's angry, he's angry, and I understand why he is. And so hopefully that bodes well for you on Saturday night.
Didn't Cliff get mad at Don in a press conference also?
Yeah,
I forgot what that was about.
What did Cliff? I didn't know Cliff had any emotion, positive or negative.
I definitely remember he got in like a little riff with Don Williams at one point, but I can't remember what it was over.
Yeah, Don Williams is with the Lubbock Avalanche Journal, right? Is that where he is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he'll be on
Don,
the show.
you're more than welcome to come on the
show.
show.
I was like, Don, you're more than welcome to come on the show next Thursday and voice your opinion. I know you're going to be watching this episode. Yeah, I don't know if I agree, Conrad, to the extent that like when you're getting frustrated at a reporter like that and like you're not answering that question, I understand that you're angry, but to kind of lose your cool at a guy, like to kind of take it out on someone, I just don't know if that's a good sign for his emotional state on going into the game. And like if he's taking that on the guys, like, and I love Joey and I'm a full supporter of what Joey's doing with the program, I don't know, that was a little off to me. I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing that he's taking it out on a reporter.
Well, I wasn't talking about specifically about Don. I was just talking about his demeanor as a whole.
Sure.
Just as a whole. So I was just saying I'm happy that he was transparent enough in that sense. And so obviously I don't think that's right, but I would get annoyed if I was the head coach and I was having to talk about injuries all the time. Like, let's talk about the game. We do give you the injury report. Just I agree with you there, but I do kind of see where he's coming from in that sense too.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, you're actually on mute, dude.
It's very surprising to hear Brennan siding with the mainstream media here. I would have never thought that this would have happened.
Brennan, what's your news outlet of choice? Just tell everybody what your news outlet of choice is.
Usually, I'll hold that for November. Usually, I'm not in agreement with the mainstream media whatsoever. But we'll save that for our election special November.
Our election special featuring Craig James.
Yeah, isn't he a senator somewhere?
And Tommy Tuberville.
Yeah. Let's get all the enemies. Yes, dude.
Yeah.
Imagine Tommy Tuberville coming on this. Tommy, what you got going in Alabama, sir? What's going on out there? Yeah, it's God, what a moron.
He'd leave halfway through.
Yeah,
exactly.
We'd be out for his head in 10 minutes for sure.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, let's get to some news and notes from around the Big 12. And I've been waiting all week for this because I thought we had our Big 12 rankings ready to go I was wrong. I was a couple days early, but we've got them now, correct? I believe you boys have conjured up quite the list. And do we have that up? Do we have our list up, or are we still short a graphic? I don't know. Conrad, am I?
We do not have a graphic. We do not have a graphic. We do have rankings.
Okay.
I mean, we do have rankings, but we do not have a graphic.
Dude,
so
maybe I was just like manifesting it into the future, but I swore I saw Clayton tweet a Broadway Shuffle Big 12 rankings, but I don't know. I maybe I'm drinking too much Cougar Juice, but so what is our Big 12 rankings? And then we've got a couple games we want to get in that we'll pick as well for the weekend. There's some fun ones this weekend actually, in the Big 12. And so if I was going to go ahead, I guess, does anybody have a list in front of them? And this is our rankings as a whole. So Clayton, I think you had one. I saw a sad face next to Tech, unfortunately. So I don't think this is going to go well for some Tech fans, but if you're going through your power rankings, do you want to go through them quickly? And then I guess Zyler and Conrad, y'all can follow. Or is this our rankings as a whole?
I say we go individually.
Go individually? Okay.
Yeah, we can go individually.
Okay. All right. Clayton, you go, man.
Okay, I can start. So number 1, I have Utah. Number 2, I have Oklahoma State. They passed Kansas State in my eyes this week. They looked a lot better than them. So I dropped K-State to 3. I have Kansas at 4. I moved them ahead of Iowa State. Dropped Iowa State to 5. Arizona to 6. I also dropped them based on how their defense looked. I have TCU at 7. They have one of the better wins this week of the Big 12. Colorado at 8. West Virginia at 9. UCF 10. Arizona State probably made the biggest jump in my eyes. I moved them up to 11. Baylor 12, Cincinnati 13, BYU 14, Tech 15, unfortunately, and then Houston last.
That's where I saw the sad face, I guess, right there. Yeah. Gosh. So Tech 15, man, I think even behind BYU. I mean, I guess it's fair. It's probably fair. Yeah.
To explain, I don't think that Tech will finish 15th, but I can't in good conscience put them higher.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, and, for our viewers, if you don't know, Tech was picked to finish 9th in the conference. So essentially, Clayton's dropped them 6 spots after week 1, which is, again, fair. So, Zyler, any thoughts on Clayton's rankings? Then you can give yours.
No, I have the same top 3 as Clayton, Utah, OSU, KSU. I actually kept ISU at number 4, probably the 2 biggest jumps for me. I have TCU all the way up at 5. I thought they looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
I have Kansas at 6. Arizona will continue to drop. They're at 7 for me. West Virginia's at 8. UCF's at 9. Colorado's at 10. ASU's at 11. Baylor at 12. Cincinnati at 13. Tech at 14. BYU at 15. And then Houston would be in 20th if there were 20 teams. They're terrible this year.
Just wait till the next realignment in 2028 and they'll be there.
Yep.
So,
Conrad.
I've got the same top 3 as them. I think that's pretty clear with Utah, Oklahoma State, and Kansas State. And then I've got Arizona at 4. I know that may be a surprise, but they looked so good on offense. I know their defense is not great at all, but their offense just looked really good. Kansas at 5, Iowa State at 6. Then I have TCU at 7 and UCF at 8. Then I have West Virginia. I know they played Penn State, but I'm not convinced that they're going to be what they were last year. I have them at 9. I will go ahead and be a little bit different here. I'll put Tech at 10. I just think that I think we're better than we showed. That's obviously the Kool-Aid, for me, but I'm going to put them at 10. I know y'all would disagree, but somebody's got to believe. So I'll be that guy for the Broadway Shuffle, and then I'll go Arizona at 11, Baylor at 12, BYU at 13, Colorado, Cincinnati, and then I'll finish it off with the 25th place Houston Cougars and Donovan Smith. So that's what I'm going to look a little bit different on the back end of things, but that's kind of how I would shake things out. But I do think TCU looks really good for what it's worth.
Zyler, were you going to say something? I couldn't tell.
No.
Okay.
No.
I didn't do rankings. I kind of wanted to hear y'all and then respond and play a little devil's advocate. I think it's funny. I mean, Conrad, it's fair. You live in the factory, I guess, so it's fair that you
I own it, baby.
Yeah, 100%
ownership.
So it's fair. And I've got to say that after week one, I don't disagree with any of your top five. But when I look at the bottom of this list, so Clayton's like UCF, Arizona State, Baylor, Cincy, BYU, Tech, and Houston. Like no one on that list scared. Like, are we really not going to be better than those teams this year? I guess is my point. And even if I'm going up, like 2 spots up, West Virginia, Colorado, TCU, I'm like, really? Like, is that the year we're headed for potentially? Is like these schools that none of these rosters scare me. None of these schools have any powerhouse level to them. And it's just kind of like, golly, I can't believe that. Like looking at Tech at 15 and it's fair again. It's just kind of, I'm just like, there's no way the year is going to end this way. And I know it's only week one rankings, but it's just.
No, I mean, I fully agree with you. Like, I don't think we're the 15th best team, but we definitely looked the 15th best this week. But I think no matter what happens this week, unless we get blown out, like we're going to be favored against Arizona State and Cincinnati, I think, at home in week 4 and 5.
Yeah. And I'll just say this too. I said before the season that at worst, you should be 4-1 at the end of the Cincinnati game, because I would assume you'd win the 4 home games. After Abilene Christian, I'm not as confident in that. But even if you lose Washington State, you have 3 straight games at the Jones against teams you should beat. And I still feel like that'd be a very good record and building block if we're able to get there come September 28th. Then hopefully we'll be moved up. But I completely think that Utah, Oklahoma State, Kansas State head of the class here. I don't think there's much argument there. But honestly, Arizona and TCU at 6 and 7, I'm kind of like, I feel like you could fall in that range, best case scenario. So outside of the top 4 or 5 here, nothing really scares me. So great job, guys, on your rankings. We'll see, and we'll follow up how y'all do each week, and then maybe that's what we'll do each week. I'll judge. I'll be the judge, jury, and executioner of y'all's rankings. And Conrad, what were you going to say?
I was just going to ask what you got. If y'all thought, obviously, right now, we're 1-0, beat Abilene Christian by 1. After thinking about those lists we gave, what would you say if after we play Cincinnati at home on September 28th, we are 5-0? What would you say? What would be your reaction? Because I know that's what a lot of us thought was a high likelihood when we recorded our preview episode, and we said that should happen. We were all drinking the Kool-Aid at that point. What would you say now, just with everything that's happened?
Dude, I think that means Barron is absolutely going off. Like he is torching teams. I don't think I see a world where this defense goes back to like top 35 unit and you're like winning 24-17. I think you're winning a ton of games by a lot of points.
Yeah, I agree. I still think if we can escape this week, like I think 5-0 may not be the most likely outcome, but it's definitely doable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I said this before the year that the Washington State game kind of will dictate that, and I still believe that, and I picked Tech to win, so I'm not as confident, but you're still at home, you're still in the Jones, you got a couple games under your belt, and teams improve. There's like we saw it last year with Oklahoma State. Zyler, keeps reminding us of that, thankfully, because it gives us some hope each, to look forward to potentially a 10-win season like they had last year. I do think that if you win this game, it kind of resets the season. Clayton, I think you were texting in our group, like, if we beat Washington State, I'm like fully back. Like you were like, it was a fluke. You said ACU was a fluke. And I think that could be the case, Conrad. So, I don't know.
Well, I'll just say this. If we're losing by double digits at halftime, I am going to sleep. I'm not staying up to watch the end of that game because I know we have a podcast about Texas Tech sports, but I'm sorry, at that point I'm done. That's way too late for me. This is already going to be a difficult game to stay up through.
First question on Monday's show is, Conrad, what do you think of the second half?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, hey, Clayton and I will be together up all. We're watching the game together. We're going to be up all night no matter what. And if you're asleep, we'll be DMing you and Barron's dropping 40, 50, 60-yard passes to come back and win the game. So
if that happens, I will be. I'll name my
No, you won't. Don't say that.
You're not gonna name. You're not gonna name your second kid Brennan Mills.
No, I'm not. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. So that's why I stopped myself. Sorry, I didn't think before I spoke.
That name would be destined for Baylor University. That just
you're exactly right.
yeah.
There's, I mean, as sad as this is, there's a world where this team beats you like 42-17, and the wheels are like completely off.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like, so I asked somebody this the other day. If you could take 6-6 right now, would you do it?
Wow.
Or would you roll the dice?
I'm still rolling the dice. I think that 6-6 we might be on course for that, but it's like I still think we could do that on our own. So I might as well roll the dice and see if we get 7-5 or 8-4.
Might as well.
I think you, again, we're forgetting about the quarterback injuries in the past, but I think the way Barron looked on Saturday and just his progression and being the guy, I think you've got the best quarterback of the Joey era right now. Obviously, Tyler Shuck was not that guy. And Joey even mentioned in his press conference how if you wouldn't have made a certain check and threw it right back to the other team, you may have won that Oregon game last year, and then the whole season would have been different. But that's neither here nor there because Tyler Shuck obviously doesn't think Lubbock smells all that great, which that's fine. He'll be hurt by next week anyway. But the thing is, I think you've got the best. Sorry, that was my Tyler Shuck rant for the week. But if you do have the best quarterback of the Joey era, I do think you can get better than 6-6. So
yeah,
I don't know. Brennan, do you have anything to add to that Tyler Shuck rant? It just comes out of me at times.
Nothing can be said that we'd be allowed to publish. So I'm going to bite my tongue on Tyler Shuck. But man, we're going to each week we're going to add Conrad. So we got the Kool-Aid, Tyler Shuck rant. Each week we're going to come up with something to add. All right, well let's get out of here.
I won't be talking about Tyler Shuck after this week because he'll be hurt and transferring to his 10th, 15th school. So
he's gonna double down on it. Okay,
he gets another medical red shirt.
Yeah, he and Alan Bowman will be competing for the oldest quarterbacks to ever play college football. Well, actually, wasn't Brandon Whedon like 29 when Oklahoma State went like 11-0 his senior year? Or whatever. Yeah,
and the Browns drafted him.
That is hilarious.
So crazy.
Yeah, the fact that he played in the NFL is wild. Okay, well, let's get out of here with some pick'em games. I've got up, I think 6 or what am I looking at? I've got up quite a few games actually. There's some exciting Big 12 games this week. Thank Zyler in the background for highlighting them for me. I appreciate it. We've got first game up. I've got Colorado at Nebraska. This is kind of a good game where you can kind of see if Colorado's legit, maybe see if Nebraska. Both teams kind of, though Nebraska doesn't have the hype, kind of has the same story going here. Two franchises with pretty eccentric head coaches. Nebraska's got a 5-star quarterback. Who do we like here? And are we believing in the Buffs? Anyone on this podcast?
Yeah, I'll go first. I really don't know where to go on this game. I think I'm taking Colorado. I definitely think Nebraska has the better team overall, but I think Colorado has like the 3 best players. And I think Travis Hunter and Shedeur make a couple plays that flip the game.
Yeah, I think the Colorado offensive line is going to be tested, and we're going to find out whether they actually work or not. Early signs were at least semi-promising. It looks like Shedeur is better in the pocket, and at least the O-line's holding up a little bit better. Let's see how it looks against Big Ten talent. I think that'll be the story of the game. If Shedeur is getting time, I think he picks apart that defense. He'll do that against just basically any defense. Against the spread, I'd probably take Colorado. I think it's at 7, but I'll probably take Nebraska outright.
Conrad?
Yeah, I'm going to take Nebraska outright. That game is in Lincoln, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'll take Nebraska just at home. I think Dylan Raiola continues to improve. Looked really good last week. I do think that Nebraska defensive line is a little bit different than the North Dakota State defensive line against that Colorado offensive line. So I do think that's going to be a test for them. I do think that Nebraska defensive line is going to get the best of them in some cases. I'm not sure that Shedeur is going to have enough time. Now, if Shedeur does have time, game over. I mean, he's gonna cook Nebraska. He's gonna cook some Cornhuskers. But I think at that point, if he doesn't have time, then Nebraska's gonna win that game, and Dylan Raiola is gonna throw for 250 and 3 touchdowns.
I like it. Give me the Buffs. I want to see them. I just kind of want to see them be good when we have them come into Lubbock, so it means something at all. November 9th. I don't want to be there and both teams be like 3-6. That would just drive me nuts. So give me Colorado for that reason. Arkansas at Oklahoma State. This is an interesting non-conference game. I'm kind of a little surprised Oklahoma State actually would schedule an SEC opponent week 2. But honestly, good for them. What do we like? We like the Razorbacks, or are we going Cowboys?
I'm going Oklahoma State in this one. I do think Arkansas looks pretty good in week 1, but they were playing Arkansas Pine Bluff, who's absolutely terrible. So playing at home, I'm going with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm taking Oklahoma State. Arkansas wants to fire Sam Pittman so badly, and they are like looking for any reason to do it. And I think they will find their reason in this game. Oklahoma State wins by 20 plus.
You'll know how you have, sometimes in high school you got a friend group, and then you've got that one guy that has that annoying little brother that's just always there, but really doesn't have any purpose or value in the friend group. That's what Arkansas is to the SEC. They think they're good. They think they're relevant, but they haven't been relevant since 2014, 2012 with Bob Petrino as their head coach. Not a fan of Arkansas. Don't think they're going to do anything spectacular with this team against Oklahoma State. I do think Oklahoma State's going to win by double digits at least. I'm not sure what the line is, but I think Oklahoma State will win pretty handily. But could be wrong because you never know what could happen.
Yeah, well, I'll sweep this game. I'm with y'all, Oklahoma State. Next game I've got. Okay, now this is interesting. This is not a Big 12 game technically, if I'm not mistaken. This game was scheduled in advance. Baylor is going at Utah. Utah played at Baylor last year in Waco when they were part of the Pac-12. So they kept this as a non-conference slate. They didn't reschedule it. So I don't believe this game counts to the Big 12 conference standings, but it is technically now a Big 12 game. So any chance Dave Aranda finds a way to rejuvenate life there in Utah?
Yeah, I'm going with Utah on this one. Although I do think Baylor may cover just because the game might be low scoring enough where Utah can't cover by 2+ touchdowns. But I don't think their offense can score enough points on Utah's defense.
I'm a sucker for like 2 touchdown favorites. I'm just always like, this team is so much better. They're going to kill them. I'm going to take Utah easily.
Yeah, I'm going Utah as well.
Yeah, I'm riding Cam Rising, man. I love that dude. He is an absolute stud. I just love Cam Rising, man. I'm so glad we don't play them because I just would be like, man,
me too.
I'm like, I would hate watching us lose to him, but also kind of like because I just am a Cam Rising homer. I don't know, but yeah, give me Utah, man. I hope they just smack the frick out of the Bears, dude. I can't stand Baylor. I'm with Conrad. I used to not care about Baylor as much. Then Conrad just like spews hatred on them, and I'm like, I kind of agree with you, dude. I hate Baylor. It's like the more Conrad talks about them, the more I hate them. So yeah, give me the Utes.
We're already over time, so I'll save my Baylor monologue for Baylor week.
Yeah,
but yeah. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, you can save it. Okay, Iowa State at Iowa. Anyone think over under 3 total touchdowns scored in this game?
3 total points.
Yeah.
No. Dude, honestly, I've been going back and forth on this one too. I think before the season, I would have picked Iowa State, but they looked way worse than I was expecting in week 1. Yeah. And with it being at Iowa, I think I'm leaning Iowa now.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to take Iowa. I don't believe in the offense, but Iowa's defense is still really, really good. And that Iowa State line is still really not good. Caleb Bacon, losing him at middle linebacker hurts them a lot. I think you're going to notice that with the Iowa State defense. They'll still be good, but they definitely lose a little bit of that elite athleticism. I'm going to take Iowa, and I'm going to take them to cover as well.
Take Iowa at home. Just not impressed with Iowa State last week. Cade McNamara had some okay moments last week. Think he'll continue to improve, and I will win 7 by a touchdown.
Yeah, Iowa dropped 40 last week. Their fans were probably thought they were in a whole different dimension. I don't know. What they see 40 pull up on the board. They're like, where are we? So give me Iowa. I hope they bully the heck out of Iowa State just so they're hurt and beat up when we go into Ames here in a couple months. So yeah, give me Iowa. All right, Pitt and Cincinnati. I'm not even going to pretend I know a thing about these teams, but Clayton, Zyler, Conrad, y'all might know more than me, but who are you picking in this game?
Yeah, I'm honestly with you. I don't know a whole lot about either of these teams, but Cincinnati's playing at home. They look decent in week 1. I'll take Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'll take Cincy here too. I think Brendan Sorsby looked a little bit better than what he'd shown at Indiana. Cincinnati's still going to have that really good offensive line. I think they win a low-scoring game, something like 24-13.
Yeah, I'll echo what Zyler said, and Travis Kelce also went to Cincinnati. So and the Chiefs play tonight. So we got to go. We got to go with Cincinnati.
Yeah, way to throw that in there. The Texas Tech Chiefs. That's what we are now, right? Yeah. Give me.
They give us hope.
Yeah, they do. Pat, we need Pat. Give me Cincinnati just for the fact that it's the Big 12, and I want some meaningful wins on the schedule this year. And if Cincinnati's fairly good record when they come into Lubbock here in a couple weeks, that'd be great. So, all right, Kansas and Illinois.
Yeah, I'll be quick on this one. I'm taking Kansas. I think Kansas's downfall of the season may be Jalen Daniels' health, but if he's healthy, I'm going to take him over Illinois.
Mm-hmm. Brett Bielema's the coach at Illinois. I'm going to go with Kansas.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Kansas as well.
Yeah, give me Kansas. All right, good. Shout out Brett Bielema. Okay, last one, Mississippi State at Arizona State.
This is another one where if I'd picked this game before the season, I would take Mississippi State. But the way Arizona State beat Wyoming in week 1, I'll take them to keep winning. I'll take Arizona State.
I have no idea. I think I'll go Arizona State since it's in the desert. I don't like Jeff Lebby, and that's why I'll pick Arizona State.
Yeah, I'll go Arizona State as well. They just looked really good in week 1, beat Wyoming by quite a few points. Don't remember how many, and not sure what Mississippi State's really going to look like yet under Lebby. And so, just being at home, I think Arizona State's going to win by double digits.
Yeah, if you beat Wyoming, you arguably have a chance to go to the college
powerhouse.
You're an absolute powerhouse. So give me Arizona State, just murdering Mississippi State just because they beat Wyoming. So, man, well, good. It's fun doing the Big 12. It's crazy doing some of these Big 12 games. Like, I'm like, why are we covering Mississippi State and Arizona State? And I just forget, sometimes that these teams are now in our conference. So it's an evolving door with the realignment era. But Zyler, there's absolutely no other way to end the podcast than Tech Trivia. And if you've made it this far as a listener, you've got to the best part of the show. And, make sure if you are listening still to tell all your friends, at least fast forward to the hour and 12-minute part because you got to get Tech Trivia. So what do you have for us tonight as we close out the show?
Yeah, so Big 12 Conference Bowl appearance leaders, something that I hadn't talked about or we've ever really discussed. I was thinking about the postseason and whether it's slipping from our grasp, whether we will make a bowl appearance. Do any of you know who the leader in the Big 12 is for all-time bowl appearances? And that's current Big 12 teams, so no OU, no Texas.
Is it Texas Tech?
I'll take that guess from Clayton. Brennan, Conrad?
I mean, the only other team I would think would be like who's been around longer, like Utah had played in a pretty weak conference. Honestly, both Utah schools. I'll say just because Clay went Tech, I'm going to say Utah.
Conrad?
What are you doing there, man?
Baylor. No, I'm just kidding.
It's not.
No, definitely not. I'm kidding. Obviously, y'all know I wouldn't pick Baylor for anything, except for the worst colors the school could ever have. This is terrible. Maybe Oklahoma State.
Good guess. No, it is Texas Tech with 41. They lead the Big 12 all-time in bowl appearance. Second and third are tied with 40 with BYU and West Virginia. Utah doesn't even crack the list.
Wow. Well, I was wrong.
Wow.
What's Oklahoma State at? Do you know?
They're at 34.
What's Baylor at?
Not
10,
on the
12.
list.
Yeah.
Less than 30.
Good. Man.
What about TCU?
36.
I wonder, Conrad, if you had to pick, like, who do you hate more, TC or Baylor? Like, if I just had, like,
yeah, when they play, who do you root for?
Yeah, who do you? Yeah,
Refs. I don't acknowledge that game. No, no. The answer's easy in that front. TCU. My grandfather played tennis at TCU, and Sonny Dykes is a Texas Tech Red Raider, so that would be an easy answer. The TCU Horned Frogs.
Yeah, I'd probably agree. Clay, Z, I mean, I might as well throw this question to y'all while we're at it.
I think I probably root for Baylor, oddly enough. I feel like TCU irks me more than Baylor does recently. 10 years ago, I think I would have picked TCU, but I think it's flipped to Baylor.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I'm going for Baylor, although it is so annoying how Baylor has nailed like 3 rebuilds.
Yes, it's insane.
Pisses me off. But
yeah. Well, we're 0 for 3, and they're 3.
Yeah.
So, anyways, well, guys, that was a lot of fun. So we'll be back on Monday, hopefully celebrating a win, and just drinking some Cougar Juice all night long, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday on the show. I can't wait for it. And to our listeners, Andrew made a joke. He said to no one that listens to you, but he's wrong. We actually have developed some listeners, whether they're our family members or not. They're here. And so please tell your friends, family about it. We'd love for Red Raiders to tune into our show. You can check us out every Monday and Thursday at the Broadway Shuffle, a Texas Tech Sports podcast. You can follow us on our social media channels at the Broadway Shuffle pod, or on Twitter /X at the Broadway Shuff. And comment below on YouTube, Spotify. If you want some tech trivia questions for Zyler, put some in his arsenal. Feel free to comment. If you have anything you'd like us to talk about, we'd love to hear from you in the YouTube comments as well. So we will be back on Monday to celebrate a Red Raider win. And if not, we will be back on Monday to absolutely just roast the heck out of the team. So
we'll be previewing the basketball season if we lose on Saturday.
And someone tell me about baseball too. We might need to have a baseball player on the pod. We might just skip all of it, go to spring sports. So with that, man, I'm Brennan with Clayton, Zyler, and Conrad, and we will catch you on Monday. Y'all have a great night, and Wreck 'em Tech.
Thanks, Brennan.
Wreck 'em.